Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some CromCon. CromCon.
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Blast.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish. They're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
And I'm Scott Wakefield, host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham, where we talk about comic books and all kinds of great storytelling, sometimes with incredible guests. And we want you to join us Wednesday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you there.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jose Fuentes. You notice Tim TK, our usual host, is not on tonight. He's had a death in the family. We send our prayers out to Tim and his family through all this he's going through. And we're going to continue on with the show without him. David?
Hi, my name is David Rios. I am here tonight too so Jose doesn't have to fly solo. He's like, yeah, okay, that's great. I do coloring, and I've been colorist with all the way back with Marvel Malibu back in the 90s. So it's just continuing with doing some coloring for Silverline. So good to go.
And the pages you were working on are awesome. I've enjoyed it when you share what you're working on. But tonight we're talking about comics as pastiche. I had to look up pastiche because I didn't know what that meant. But it's comics that are inspired, or not so much comics, but art that is inspired by other art, other creators. So in my thoughts, it's if you ever look at a certain cover, there's a lot of homage covers that come out from Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane that's been shared and basically re-envisioned with other characters, other Spider characters of Spawn. Big Bang Comics. Thank you. Thank you, Pops. Pops in the background, clicking buttons for us. We appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Pops. And Vic, welcome back. it wouldn't be a Tuesday show without both you guys. So.
Right?
Awesome.
That is very true. Very true. So, as I said, I'm mostly just hitting the big points on that one. There's also Christ on Infinite Earth, the Superman cover where he's holding Supergirl. That was also homaged on a cover for X-Men for Dark Phoenix.
Speaking of an homage comic in a transition is we know that that Todd McFarlane is a big fan, since we've already been talking about Todd. Big fan, and it does own. He said on a Wired interview that he does own Action Comics #1. Well, for his latest con, he produced a reenactment in a Spawn toy that was offered of that cover of Superman holding the automobile up. It was done by McFarlane Toys. And it's kind of weird because you look at Action Comics #1 and you see it just from his right side and whatever, but now that he did that that homage toy to the book, you actually now get to see a 3D rendering, so you can actually see the other side of the car, and you see all damage and stuff like that. And you're like, hey, that's kind of cool watching that. So that's one example. Another example that McFarlane did was also on his previous work is I believe it was his last cover of Batman Year 2, where it has Batman with the big cape flowing.
Oh yeah.
He did that also in a toy, and that one is it's 18 inches. I think he's saying it's 18 inches tall with the cape as he's going through.
Oh man!
So there's some really cool stuff, on that with some history, and he's first one was an homage to Action Comics, and then the second one was to a book that he did, years ago.
Right.
So.
Well, I was looking up several what comic covers did homage to other covers, right? And I know I mentioned I saw there's a Spider-Gwen that's all homage after was it Amazing Spider-Man #1, right?
300.
He's the one where 300. Yeah, sorry.
300.
And there is a Spawn one. There is almost every Spider-Man, right? So you got Scarlet Spider, you have Spider-Gwen, you have all those are all modeled off the same. Not even just that, there's other companies that have pulled that same image, and so I mean
there's a Lady Death one.
Yep.
That's in that position. I believe I just saw today that there was a Ninja Funk version of it as well.
Yes.
So yeah, that's
amazing.
And I know that I think they just released a chrome version or a foil version of 300 in a gold color that they just
oh, that's cool.
Spider-Man 300, that was a limited release. So yeah, another one that you get is and we've talked about before, where you'll see covers that are labeled as after John Romita Sr. and and stuff like that. So yeah, there's some good stuff there as well. Okay. Got some slight freezing, Jose. A little bit of freezing there.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to say that the other part of the title for today is what inspires comic creators. So, from a creator's point of view, what inspires you in the work that you do?
In the work I do, I always look at things that are. I'm always looking for different colors and things like that. I'm looking for stuff that kind of pushes the envelope on colors and rendering and stuff like that. So I'm always looking for how other people do their stuff. How the colors the colors match, how they can contrast and stuff like that. I'm always looking at other people's stuff, not just specifically comic related, but things, lighting, people that have painted, natural scenes, stuff like that. And I also go back to my mom. My mom wasn't a professional. She wasn't anything like that. But my mom had a very unique perspective. And she was an artist. My grandfather was an artist as well. Mostly a housewife in her case. But we had, just kind of go back on a little thing. We had a one instance where we decided that we were both going to sit there and draw our take on an apple, and in this sense is my apple was your standard apple that you get at the store. It tends to be taller, longer, stuff like that. And my mom's was almost this Norman Rockwell, like perfect little round apple and all that stuff. Because her experiences, she was, she was 28 when she had me, so she was, a little older than I was. And so she grew up in the 40s, and so. And in the country, in Kentucky, and all this stuff. So she was your Southern girl and all this stuff.
Right.
So a lot of her views and all that stuff was based off of simplicity and things like that. And a lot of my experience was a little more modern day store things, and it was unique for me to see completely different takes on how we drew this apple and all that. So the inspiration that a lot of what I pull for is in natural modern times, and I try to counterbalance that with some stuff from older times as well, and see what I can pull in from the less complicated world.
Right.
How about you?
I feel that I personally am inspired by like artists like Todd Knock and Ed McGuinness, and usually when I do my own pencils, my line work tends to be a little more a little thicker. I like that the bolder lines. I think it pops the pictures out, and I'm a big fan of feathering and feathering and hatching, not necessarily cross hatching, because cross hatching is great. And it's such a great way to show texture. If you've ever seen anything Frank Cho does, when he does his cross hatching, it's just, he can make magic pop with cross hatching. I don't quite have that technique, but hatching makes sense to me in that when you go from like thinner to thicker lines, to me, that creates the depth that I'm trying to look for. But those are like artists that I follow. I didn't have any really artists in my family. Other than like my dad played music, but my dad learned how to play the accordion, and not the accordion with like the piano keys, but the accordion with the dots. He learned how to play that by ear. Like no one ever taught him how to play, and he can play the keyboard he can listen to a couple songs, play it, and figure it out like within a few minutes. My son is the same way when it comes to music. Like I'm not sure where in my family anybody else actually did like physical artwork like I do, but like I had to take my inspiration from other artists. A lot of my take on like, being experimental with some of the stuff I do, I got that from my art teacher. And he was pretty cool because he would always, by Friday, he would like want to lighten the mood. So he always did like these magic tricks with like string and nails and stuff like that. You know what I mean? To kind of just break up the week or at the end and just give us something different, a different perspective to look at. But that's my inspiration personally.
Well, I wanted to, that kind of sparked something with me is when I was at the con, I went in and I went to some of the signings with David. I'm hoping I'm saying it correctly. David Nakayama.
Okay.
Usually signs his stuff DNA.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's DNA. Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of pieces that I picked up, and it just reminded me where you were talking. A lot of the stuff that I've seen with him, it seems like he also thickens, outlines and stuff. So, here's a first example is new Supergirl.
Right. Also, if you look at his outlines, something that my comic shop guy and I noticed was that a lot of the different pieces he does, a lot of the different covers he does, the main focal point figure has a colored outline around it, be it a lighter color or a darker color. I'm not quite sure what color that was because of the glare, but most of the figures have an outline around them.
Yes, this one has, let me pull this out. This one has like a yellow around it.
Nice. Probably to complement the yellow on her outfit in her hair. Yep. That's awesome.
And then he also had this one, which is, I really like this one because it was a different take on this stuff. He also did this Ninja Funk piece.
Nice.
I
like that. That's cool.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the outlines and stuff like that, that definitely reminded me of that. And my experience with the guy is he was such a super nice guy.
Yeah.
I talked to him about showed him some of the stuff that I did at Malibu and all that. He's interested in it, and I told him that I've suggested before that some of his work. He was like very appreciative, and just even signing stuff, he's like, hold on, let's make sure this ink dries before you take it here.
Right.
Blowing it in, and all this stuff. So
that's cool.
And then also somebody who we've talked about before was Chrissy Zulu Amiga. I picked up this Women of Marvel book. Sorry about the reflection.
You're all right.
She tends to do, a little more outlining as well. So another, great person to deal with. So
right. And Vic had a comment up there. My inspiration, thank you. Art-wise, tends to be a little Ben Bishop, a little Rob Davis, a little Mike Gustovich, a little Butch Bertram. Hopefully, I said all those names right.
A little bit of the bunch of the Carlton stuff.
Yep. I definitely got some Eastman and Laird in because I've seen some of Vic's work, and I did some critique on it. I just got to send it to him. I swear I'll get it to you, Vic. But very much so. In Vic's style has a little more roughness to it, which isn't terrible. Like I say, Eastman and Laird stuff, like right at the beginning, you know what I mean? That was very rough, you know what I mean? But it was the style that people liked, you know what I mean? The style that like went with the time period, you know what I mean, when the Turtles came out.
And what's interesting is where I picked up some of these things was at the Whatnot booth And while I was there, Kevin Eastman was doing a broadcast and signing and sketches.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's just funny that you mention it. That yeah, he was there doing that stuff. So
that's cool. So another thing that was brought up when reading the description for tonight was that the comment that there are no original stories anymore in comic books, that everything has already been told before. I kind of agree with that, in that the same story is being told over and over. It's just a matter of what view you take on the particular story. One of the ones I wanted to look up to see what books kind of like take some inspiration from, right? So obviously you have the Hulk, that's like Frankenstein, you know what I mean? Like things like that. Was it Sue Storm's thing is like, I feel anyway, like a very obvious play off the Invisible Man, just different aspects like that. But another one was, to me, was playing off, and this is not stating in any way, shape, or form, discussing religion, but there are aspects of, religious things that go into different books. Like say the death of Superman, you know what I mean? Superman died, he came back, you know what I mean? Things like that. Do you have any in your mind that follow within that same purview?
Comic related is different, but obviously, that's been that's been a recurring thing. Everybody pulls off of their experience growing up, and I think that's a natural thing. So yes, yeah. I mean, normally the stuff will come through and be based off of something. Now, you get some things out of somewhere that you're like, okay, that one I can't figure out where it comes. And an example of that I saw this weekend was I saw an article about the flaming carrot.
Oh, I remember that.
And it's like, I have no idea where that came from. but it was, it was very unique. It was a very interesting thing. You get stuff like, the Usagi Jimbo stuff, from the samurais and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. A lot of it, is love of, things that you had, to a degree. You have like Star Wars that's, part based off of religion, the Force, all that stuff. But then you've also got your, Lucas's love of, like Westerns and stuff like that, and we even saw that with like some of the, there's, Star Wars for the old Westerns, and you've got things like, Firefly with, along those lines with, sci-fi and Westerns and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
well, that's what Firefly being like a space Western. That's my whole appeal to it. I love Westerns. Like growing up, Westerns were everything for me. You know what I mean? Watching it on TV, reading about it. I mean, even though like the first comic I ever read was a Conan comic, you know what I mean? Like the old black and white Conan magazines or not. Those were my first comics I ever read. But yeah, like Firefly, almost anything that has to deal with Westerns, I'm all about it.
Yeah, and I like the stuff also, how it transitions to like anime and stuff, like the Cowboy Bebop Western, Bounty Hunter, all that stuff. So yeah, it's I totally agree that there is a lot of that information, and I've had some conversation with people over the past weekend and stuff about the idea of take inspiration from things, don't copy things, but take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and when you mesh it together, you have something unique, but something that not only resonates with you, but resonates with other people as well.
Well, I feel that that was exactly how it went about creating. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? That was literally taking literal characters and putting them together. You know what I mean? Basically, putting all these literary characters together in one story. You know, you had I just drew a blank. Wow.
Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah,
and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde. You had gosh dang, what was her name from Dracula? The lady that he liked. I'm a huge Dracula fan. I can't remember. I drew a blank on that. Anywho,
I'm trying to blank right now too.
That was, I mean, not even just because the movie was a little different, right? But the comic book for that was actually really kind of cool. And even I think it was in the second one, maybe it was the first one, but even included was it Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, the tripod robot monster things. Like that was cool, but like that is to me a literal transplant of characters into a comic form. You know, you're not creating new characters. You may create a new scenario or maybe even a little bit of a new personality for them, but you're not creating new characters. You're transplanting them from literary stories into your comic book. You know, and that was one of the examples I found when looking up the not having any new stories and just moving things around to fit the story you're trying to tell.
What about the old series? I think it was Stories Illustrated, where they would take a lot of the novels and illustrate them in the trade paperbacks. Let's see if I can find.
I think I have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea of that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that for me was kind of interesting. That was a good way for to get kids and stuff reading.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of the illustrated stuff. So that's kind of another type of thing that fits in with this, with our theme here. So
Classics Illustrated, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Vic is on point as always.
Yeah. Just reading some of Vic's comments here.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I'm not sure about the protection. I don't know what that is. Like that is foreign to me.
The Protectors?
Yeah.
I'm assuming, Vic, you're talking about the Malibu Protectors book? Yep. Pops has some of those. Classic Illustrated. Okay.
Yeah. So, I have some of those too. I'm not sure they're Classic Illustrated or not, but I have a few of them packed away somewhere. I still haven't, since we moved after the hurricane, I still haven't unpacked all my trades and stuff like that. They're still boxed up in my closet. Someday I'll get them all out.
Yeah, I'm kind of I haven't had a hurricane or anything go through, but I have moved, and my comics have moved from my house to my parents' house, back to this house, and all the lists of stuff. So I've been recataloging stuff. So okay, Vic's yelling at us now.
Easy, Vic, easy. There you go. I'm not necessarily sure I've read that. Hopefully Roland won't beat me at the end of the month or the end of next month, because we're going to be hitting a convention in Kentucky. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, when it comes to other stories that are inspired by, more specifically, I was mentioning inspired by literary stories, there's a twist. I think was it I want to say Avatar Comics. Maybe that's wrong, but they did Mary Shelley Monster Hunter, right? Basically taking Mary Shelley, and if anybody doesn't know who Mary Shelley is, Mary Shelley was the one that wrote Frankenstein, right?
Mhm.
But it's taking the story that the night that she had come up with Frankenstein, because I believe there was a friend's contest of who could write a particular story, right? And the night that happened, an actual monster came into the cabin they were at, and it led to this whole story. That's what the whole Mary Shelley Monster Hunter was about. And it was like that story, or that happening for them, is what led to the story that she wrote, which I thought was a pretty good concept, like for a comic book. You know what I mean? And including, and I don't think it's in comic form, but you know, no, I don't think anybody other than maybe my wife and a few other people, but ever read, like, was it Pride and Prejudice? I think almost, if they're gonna know that story, they're gonna know it because they watched the movie of some sort. But there's the actual book, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies,
Oh yeah,
which
my
someone took the Pride and Prejudice story and then incorporated zombies into, like, I thought that was amazing personally. And then I think that's also the time I learned about Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter or Vampire Killer,
Hunter.
Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, yeah. I know exactly with you. My wife loves those, both of those. I don't know how many times that my wife has had the Abraham Lincoln movie on loop. It's one of her.
I love that movie. It's so out there and dynamic, and that's probably what I like about it. Like, you know what I mean? When you watch something like that, you're like, there's no way this would ever happen. But you know, you kind of push off, you know, any sense of like realism. Just enjoy it. I think there's one more book, right? I want to say something in Sea Monsters or something like that. I think it's one in the water.
That one doesn't.
I could be wrong, but I thought there was 3 of them, and I was kind of surprised that they didn't actually make the 3rd one into a movie like they did the other 2. But those are taking, you know, different concepts, and, you know, like I said, you're taking the literary book, Pride and Prejudice, and then you're throwing a different twist. You know, you're not recreating the story per se. You're just adding a new element to it. I think that counts under you know what I mean, basically the pastiche. I use the word for a story. You know what I mean? You're taking a story that someone else created and you're changing it to be something that you are interested in, or what you think people will be interested in. Or what you're inspired. You're inspired by Pride and Prejudice. So, like, I'm inspired by that, but I want to see zombies in it. Or you're inspired by Life of Abraham Lincoln, and, you know, but I want to see him fighting vampires.
Yeah, one of the comics and or animated movies. It's not anime, but one of the comics that she also loves, which is kind of on this take. You know, Jack the Ripper is the Batman Gotham by Gaslight.
Ooh, yeah.
She loves that one.
That is a great one.
That's a great, you know, the book was great, and then the animated movie came out. That followed very well. So
right. Paul Bunyan Fairy Killer?
Oh, he wants to do it.
I also just recently saw, what is it? Darkness Comes to Gotham or something like that. I think it's in one of the semi-newer ones. But it's basically, it's the story, you know, a story of Bruce Wayne coming back to Gotham, but it throws in the Cthulhu mythos twist into it, and it makes it an entirely different story. Like, watching how they incorporated the Batman villains, you know, be it was it Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, I think Firefly. I had talked to a friend of mine. He said one of the characters is supposed to be Firefly. He's a dude completely in flames. I mean, it makes sense to me, but I didn't guess that at first. You know what I mean? At first thought, but like incorporating that and making a twist of how they came about via the whole like into the mouth of madness logic, you know, or mythos of Cthulhu, Lovecraftian stuff.
Vic's always got something coming through.
I know, right?
He's got so many different takes on things.
So for me, Vic, I don't, other than comic books, and I still have like 2 stacks of comic books I haven't even caught up on yet. You know what I mean? Just because like I have to find the time to sit there, and I don't want to just read one. I'll have to like grab the whole stack and read the whole thing. But draw comics is that they really want to be a film director. Is that really what inspires people to draw comics, or to write them, maybe, or both? You know, if it's your own comic, I can definitely see that. And hey, Chuck, too, yeah. But yeah, so a lot of the like any of the like novels I don't want to read. The only book that I'm actually like physically reading, right, is honestly Roland's book. Like I'm actually reading a book that Roland wrote. You know what I mean? And I'm enjoying that. But everything else, I kind of audiobook it because I can't just sit still and read anymore. I'm either doing something with the kids or sitting down here, you know, drawing, and like I can't focus on reading a book. Or to me, I feel like I'm not doing anything productive if I'm sitting there reading a book.
I tend to mostly read books once I'm done and I'm like in bed and I'm trying to, you know, wind down for the day. That tends to be more. But I'm an extremely slow reader. My wife can go through, you know, she's gone through like 2 books in a weekend. You know, when we go camping and stuff, she just gets absorbed and she just runs through it. But I'm also the one that, you know, I can turn around and say, well, on page, you know, 133, you know, this particularly happened. And this is what we did. It's an example. We did this with my stepdaughter, and she was trying to pull the thing when she was in school. She chose The Hunger Games as her book to do her book report on. So she tried to pull the thing of, oh yeah, I've read the book and all that stuff. So I turned that tables on her and I said, all right, well, what happened at this scene, you know, up in the attic, you know, when you know, Hamish pulled her aside, and the look of gloss that went over her face and all this stuff. So yeah, with me, it's like I read very slow, but I tend to retain the things. And for me, it's like a wind down period, you know, for getting ready.
See, I used to be able to do that. Like when I was in high school and probably in my 20s, I could sit there and just read. And I would kill a trilogy in like, you know, 3 or 4 days. You know what I mean? But I don't know. After I started having kids and my 87 kids that I have, it feels like 87 some days. But like, it's like, oh, Dad, what are you doing? Oh, I'm trying to read. Like anytime I even just crack open the book, Dad, what are you doing? All right, what do you need? So I never get to read. That's why, like most of the time, if I'm reading anything, it's an audio book. Like I don't think it's cheating. I did for the longest time, but I used to work in a warehouse where it was 30 degrees. It was anywhere between 30 and minus 30. And if I was in the freezer doing counting stuff for minus 30, I always put my audiobook on and did it because I can go faster and not have to focus on anything. But I went through the entire Lovecraftian like library in that time. So my younger kids do indeed read comics. To answer this question, my younger kids do read comics. My olders don't. My son likes things. His focus is other than music, because my son plays 8 different instruments. But his focus is, his passion is roller coasters. he can look at a roller coaster like as we're driving by, and just by the loops or spins that are in it, he can tell you what company made it.
Nice.
Because evidently only certain ones do certain things. But my 11-year-old started reading Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Started reading that.
Okay.
And my other daughter is very tactile. She likes to watch stuff, but she's up constantly knitting, like either like the 2-needle knitting or crocheting. Like it's always something. Finger knitting. She learned how to make bracelets and stuff on her fingers.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. She's her mind is always going. The biggest thing for her is quiet. Is not something she can deal with. So
right.
That's kind of what we talked about before. That's where the Resident Evil for the 25th time or the Vampire, Abraham Vampire Hunter is on screen, because she's already seen it. She doesn't get drawn into it. It's background noise.
Right.
And same thing. She's crocheting. She's knitting. She was this whole weekend when we get back to the trailer from the con, she was doing that little thing where it has those they're like little sparkle discs, and you glue them down to the paper and they make the big picture. So you're constantly just kind of transferring little things on there. And end of the day, she had this scroll. I could show you, but I have to get up from the chair. I can see it right there. But she's always got to be doing something crafty, and she goes through. So getting the movies on, getting the things in the background, whether she's, coloring, doing some flats for me, it just whatever she's doing, she's got her mind going, and she's, bouncing back and forth. And like your daughter, sitting there doing stuff with her hand is what, keeps her going and calms her and does all that stuff. So I totally get that.
That's cool, Chuck. Right on. My local comic shop, almost every Saturday we have a drawing night, and me and a couple other comic book artists and some friends that that we've met along the way. They're not artists per se, but they come in and draw with us, and we'll pick a theme for the week for that Saturday. Like, oh, this week it's Spider-Man, next week it's Avengers. You know what I mean? You have to draw something from that theme. And even the guys who aren't artists will come in. They'll still come in with the idea and along the lines of the theme. And most of the time they're like drawn on their own, or they'll be like, hey, Jose, what do you think about this? Like something's not feeling right for me. You know what I mean? Or like, what, how would you go about, making this happen? You know what I mean? And I do the best I can to pass on some information. But yeah, like that's my favorite thing to do on Saturdays, to go to my local comic shop, get together with other artists, and just like help inspire people that like may not do it on their own, but enjoy drawing on our stuff. Open draw stream. I've never been a part of a draw stream. Is that like you're drawing while doing the live stream? I mean, right?
Yes, it is. Vic joins us every Sunday, almost every Sunday. Bunch of people, like this last week, we had like 9 different people out drawing at the same time. And I'll just like switch between, like I'll set the screen up kind of like this, and I'll just switch the screen back and forth and keep showing everybody's art, and they're just talking about whatever. It's fun. We have a good time. But you guys are
That's kind of cool.
Come hang out, man.
I mean, I'll have to figure out a way to hold my phone up to do it. But yeah, that'd be awesome.
Nice. Okay.
I don't even know what oversleep means. Man, on Sunday, Saturdays, I usually don't get home till like 2:00 in the morning. Then I kind of sit and chill till like 3 and then go to bed. And then I wake up at 8:00 to go to church and go to church, come home, start running the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's see. Maybe back to our subject at hand. For anybody who's new on our stream, we diverge a lot.
Just a lot.
Right? Just a little bit.
But
Let's
that's
see.
okay. The other streams and that. I was listening to the Wednesday.
Wednesday Whammers.
Last week with Kevin West, and one of the things that Barbara said is, it's not our show unless we, talk about Star Trek, Star Wars. There's got to be mentioned at some point, and
it's not a show till Vic comes on and calls Rob venerable.
There you go.
That's because you're working at an angle. I've been on the stream with you, Vic. That's cool. See, my local shop, he was a tattoo artist. And so his style and his view on how he sees the artwork is an entirely different, different bird than mine. Like I draw a lot of light lines and circles and gestures until my picture starts to come through. And he's like, this is what I want it to look like. I'm going to do this. Very, very different.
Yeah, my comic shop that I go to regularly, there's no drawing, no thing like that. It's more just strictly business. You go in and the guy knows everything about everything, but it's not like a talent thing or people come in to hang out for long periods of time from what I've seen. I'll come in, he's a family friend, so I'll come in and hang out with him for a while and talk to people as they come in. But that's more of just like a friendly thing, not from an artist standpoint and all that. I don't really have a lot of comic shops around that they do stuff like that. Most of the comic shops around me are, they're pretty much more straight business. There are also a lot of, multi types of things.
So it's like a comic shop and like a trading card game shop.
A game shop. Some of them may have Warhammer stuff and things like that. So it's not really a huge creative instance like that. Other than you seeing some of the Warhammer painted figures and stuff like that. But most of the stuff is just straightforward sales, and a lot of the comics in this area, a lot of the stores have there used to be a huge abundance of different things, but they've gotten kind of niche on what they do and all that. So, yeah.
So my local shop now, it's a smaller shop, but he uses the space very efficiently, and obviously he has goals to be in a bigger location, but he'll get there, and he's got a lot of great ideas, and he loves local creators. You know what I mean? He loves local artists and loves to push their work in his store. We actually we were talking about where I was from, and he had mentioned a particular shop. One of the shops, one of the first times I ever drew outside of my own home was on 24-hour comic book day. That's a day designated, and I don't remember what the date is, off top hand, but where you spend one day and you make you try your best to make a comic book in one day, right? And the local shop, Buy Me Toys in Indiana, that was my very first time outing to draw at a local shop. Yeah, exactly. And that was my first time out. I met a few other people there, a couple other artists locally that I never even knew. One local guy that I knew, Terry Huddleston. I kind of met him through another friend, but like through that shop as well. But yeah, like I like stores that want to promote local artists. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, my back before I got into comics, I was working for a comic store. My first experience with creating stuff was, we decided, a friend of mine and I decided to, make like a company newsletter, and we did some drawings and some things, and and I inked some stuff. Unfortunately, one of the things that we were looking at and we had created, the designs and everything ended up being right after that they released the movie Universal Soldier, and
Yeah.
there was so many similarities between what we were doing and that, and then the fact that the comic shop didn't end up going as well experience as I liked or we liked, and we just ended up stopping doing it. But he was the same artist that ended up working with me doing the backup feature in the Zillion comic book for Malibu. So it was a start,
Right.
and at the time, Malibu and Ultraverse was they were doing a lot of promotions in the area, and this was one of the comic shops that was right, almost literally down the street. So we had a lot of Dave Ulverk used to come in all the time, publisher for Malibu. And so we would have people come in. So there was some promotional stuff like that. But yeah, it ended up just being, for me, very limited experience. And then my direction ended up shifting to going into coloring instead of inking.
Right.
So, but it was fun while it lasted. I totally get that.
That's cool. Yes, Vic, you should totally go there. Just saying. Now it's been a while since I've been back home. I know that it used to be behind University Park Mall, but I'm not quite sure if it's still there or not. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've been home there. But yeah, I used to buy HeroClix there. I used to buy my comics there, and I still have most of my HeroClix. They're in the garage somewhere. But it is on grapefruit now. Okay. It's amazing. I love talking to someone who knows
exactly what you're talking about.
I've been, yeah. Like I used to run up there all the time. Not yet. I was talking to Pops just a little bit about it, but that's one of my things. I need to reach out to Alan and see what's what. But yeah, that's my goal to get up there. I was up there a couple weeks ago because I have family up there that's going through a little bit of roughness right now, and I talked to you about it a while ago. But yeah, I had some family stuff going on, so I went up north to go visit family, and then I'm going up north again to Kentucky in like a month.
Nice.
But so, it's a Madness favorite. That's awesome. I'm gonna get up there. I swear, I'm gonna get up there for Holy Heroes Comic Con. So it's in, I think it's in Elkhart, right? Elkhart or South Bend. But I basically grew up in that area, and the convention was never there when I was there. It came after I'd already left. But like I like the idea of going back up to where I where I grew up. You know what I mean? Where most of my mom's side of the family is. I think it's fantastic to go up there and just look around and see, like, oh yeah, like show my kids, like, I used to hang out here. I rode my bike from here. I used to skateboard from here to here, and yeah, see. But yeah, oh, see, tangents. You're good on veering off. But yeah, I guess I want to say that if you pick up a comic, it doesn't even matter what comic it is. Almost every comic is already a story that's already been told. You may get like, you know, Batman doing this and Superman doing that, but like if you look at the underlying like synopsis of the story, it's already been told. Like you're basically, if you pick up a book because you like it, it's because you like either the characters in it or like was it the movie Conspiracy Theory? Mel Gibson had to, every time he passed the bookstore, he had to go in and find Catcher in the Rye. He had like tons stacks of like Catchers in the Rye. It's the same principle, I think, for comics. Like you find a storyline you like, you're going to get it multiple times. You may not realize that because of the different characters, different worlds, different settings and whatnot, but it's all the same thing. So, yep. Vic said it's an unoriginal thing with a bunch of twists. So yes, it is. Almost every story. Like, if you ever watched the old movie Mallrats, right? In it, Jason Lee talks to Stan Lee. He's like, you know, he starts mentioning about this character and certain things about other characters, and I mean, I'm pretty sure Stan Lee told him it was the same thing. You know, it's everything. You know, it's already been told. You know, it's all different stories. You like it was. I think we mentioned. I'm rambling, just so you know. I'm rambling, but
I'm letting you ramble. Go for it.
The Hulk is basically Jekyll and Hyde. You know what I mean? It's the literary story of Jekyll and Hyde. You have, you know, Superman. I'm sure. I have been told Superman is a direct take from the Bible, which I'm not quite sure I believe, just because of the aspects of it. But, I mean, I'm sure if you look at it one way or the other, you can see that. But there are so many stories that are taken just from literary stories and just transplanted into, you know what I mean, the universe of the comic that you're reading. Versus a troll. Fair. Reading Chuck Lee's comment. I think that depends on the artist that you go to, because I've had a situation where the cover artist Afua Richardson will sit there and she spent 45 minutes with me going over my work and just going over stuff. It really would depend on the artist that you're talking to. I had was it Gavin Smith did a portfolio review for me while I was at school. Now, albeit he came to the school for that, but even his friend Stuart Sager was like, "Oh, hey, you know, you should go show Gavin your stuff." You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it would depend on the artist. I've heard horror stories about Neil Adams, and I've heard great stories about Neil Adams. You know what I mean? So I think, I mean, if an artist is willing to sit there and talk to you and go over your portfolio, great. More importantly, schedule time. Don't just go and they got a crowd of people.
You also got to remember that, you know, a lot of times, you know, you'll have artists critique stuff, but remember that a lot of the artists don't necessarily have the ability to hand out work.
Right.
They're, you know, they're doing their stuff and all that, but they're not on the publishing side, unless you're talking about your, you know, your Jim Lees, your, you know, McFarlane's and stuff.
Right.
But a lot of the other, you know, the other artists are, you know, they're there to help and all that. But, you know, even back in the day, 80s and 90s, you know, a lot of the artists didn't have that ability. It was still uniquely, you know, like, you know, back in the early days of Image, there was a big grab. There's, you know, huge grab for, you know, people, and you saw a lot of the things like, you know, you can draw like you like Rob Liefeld. Well, Rob Liefeld would pick you up because he wants to find people that draw kind of similar to him, so that his books have a unique thing, similar with McFarlane, and a lot of the stuff in Jim Lee, and things like that. So they had a lot of consistency, so they hired a lot of the people. But when you went in and you're talking about things like Marvel, DC, back in the 80s and 90s, that was definitely a publisher thing. The publisher would tell you, hey, this is the type of stuff, or the editors, this is what we're looking for, and things like that, and if, you knock their socks off, then, maybe they might give you a call back. But, it was typically rarely an artist thing coming into it, bringing you and getting you hired, because a lot of artists, they're also on the point where they they want the work, rightfully so. They want to keep the work going, so so they're there to promote the stuff, and like you said, the autographs and stuff like that, to build the fan base, get people to buy the work. They buy the work, they sell the stuff. Marvel, DC, Image, they keep them, they're hot commodity, and let's keep the work flowing and all that stuff. So,
all right. Well, one more. Vic just made a post, which I think, for the most part, Vic, I think that's disrespectful. You know what I mean? Artists, when they go to conventions and whatnot, in my experience, they're going there because they're trying to push their merch. They're trying to push their books or push whatever artistic thing that they have, and they want to make money too. They you pay money to be at the table at a convention for the most part. Unless you don't and you get invited in, but for the most part, when you're trying to get your name out there and whatnot, you're paying to sit at a table. You're trying to make that money back as best you can. So the idea of hey, I'll step aside real quick, so someone can come in and purchase what they want, and that way that the artist or whatever doesn't lose out on a potential sale. And then I feel as an artist, I would respect that a lot more, and they come back to you because you allowed that to happen. That was just, like I said, that's just a respect thing.
Yeah, I agree. Every time I go in, even if I'm talking with one artist, because a lot of artists, at the cons have a limited amount of space and all that. So the last thing you want to do is be the person that's standing in front of somebody else's booth, person B's booth, while you're talking to person A. And even when I'm talking with some person A, if somebody comes up and has any kind of questions or any kind of interest or anything, I want to see your your printouts and stuff like that, it's always back up and make way so that they get priority, because you always got to remember that these tables cost them money, and they have to do, they need to make that money back, and hopefully make some additional money and all that. So you don't want to impede that. You also don't want to monopolize all their time as well. Right. So what I find is a lot of times you'll go in, you'll fit something, you'll talk to somebody, maybe if it's a case where like I did over this last con was it's a multi-day con, so I would spend a little time and then I'd go back, a day or two later, and then, talk for a little bit more, and then, then maybe I think one person I ended up coming back like a third time total. But it's, small little things, not to impede them, not to interrupt them from other stuff that they do. And, sometimes I go in and, if it's somebody that like somebody I've worked with or whatever, I've said, all right, well, what do you got for artwork today, and I'll go and try and maybe buy a piece that they have just to help support them. Right. So yeah, I'm always myself, I'm always trying to be conscious of that this is also business, and don't don't take offense if you walk up and you tell them your life story, and then you come back tomorrow and they don't remember your life story, because there's how many thousands of people shuffling through some of these larger cons and all that stuff.
I was gonna say, depending on the size of the convention,
yeah. So just the general rules is is just be respectful, don't impede on on their space, try to support them as much as possible, and thank them for anything, if they have time to review your stuff and give you critique, thank them for that, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, try to take it at heart, and pull what you can with what can you do from what the feedback they gave you to improve the stuff that you have. So, take that as a good note. Yeah.
And like I always try to do, Jim Lee had mentioned, an article thing that he does, tends to do 3 critiques, 3 negatives and 3 positives. You know what I mean? And try your best to end on a positive. You know what I mean? You want to make the person feel good. You know what I mean? As they're walking away, that yes, they have some work to do, but they're definitely in a good direction. You know what I mean? At least to make them feel good. Like I said, when they walk away, that's my thoughts anyway. Like I always try to give. This is what I would think about. Like this is a new take, a new my angle of how I would approach what you're doing, but I think that you did great on this. But yeah. Well, it is 12:06. We are 6 minutes over on our time. We are That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Come back tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for the Wednesday Whammers. Not quite the subject what they're going to talk about.
They're going to talk about, Barbara's going to be hosting, and they're going to talk about aliens.
Aliens. You're right.
Are they out there? I'm gonna try and make it if I can. It kind of right up against the end of my day because it's like 5 p.m. My time.
Yeah, I try, but 8 o'clock tends to be, my kids are still running around like mad barbarians. So
yeah, I'm usually dealing with the overflow before I shut my day job down and shift over to my night job. But if I can, I'm going to try. I'll try and make it.
Yeah. So check them out. It's going to be fun, and we're going to try our best to join them as well. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a great night. Pops. Yeah, oh yes, and make my Silverline.
Make my Silverline.
You gotta say the line.
There you go.
I'm so used to Tim setting us up with it.
There you go. Make yours Silverline. Peace out.
That's right.
Hi, I'm Bill Black. I created FemForce, but you know what? Today, make mine Silverline.
Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network. with original programming and additional comic-related content.